Hey friends, what's going on? It's really again. Hope you're not getting sick of me. Anyways, welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're learning Daf Yud Beis of Masechta Berachos. So without further ado, today's daf is pretty cool. There's a little stretch here on Yud Beis and Aleph that's you gotta halt kappa shtickle, but otherwise it should be smooth sailing. Here we go. Okay, we're starting from about 2, 4, 6, 7 lines, 8 lines in on Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph. After the two dots, it says, "V'koren aseres adibros shma v'hayim shemoa v'yomer emes v'yatziv v'avoda uverkas kohanim." So we learned the last thing that we learned yesterday was that in the Beis Hamikdash in the morning, as part of like all the stuff that they would do with the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, they would then go to Lishkas Hagazis, which I did check up, and it's true. The Lishkas Hagazis is where the Sanhedrin would sit. Okay, sorry about the unclarity yesterday. Anyways, then it says that they would Berechu Bracha Achas. They would make one of the brachos of Kriyat Shema, and then read the Aseres Adibros, Shema, etc. So we're going to be talking about this Aseres Adibros thing over here. So, Amar Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Af Begvulim Bikshu Likros Kain, El Shekvar Bitlum Mipnei Tar Omes Haminin. Extremely interesting that even outside of the Beis Hamikdash, okay, in the Gvulin, outside of the Beis Hamikdash, I assume what that means is like all the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael outside of the Beis Hamikdash. I guess the assumption being that everyone was living in Eretz Yisrael. I don't know if that extends outside of Eretz Yisrael as well. But anyways, they wanted to say Kriyat Shema. They wanted to say the Aseres Adibros as part of Shmua, as part of Kriyat Shema. But it says Shekvar Bidlum Mipnei Tar Omes Haminin. But they had to stop doing that because the minim were, giving them were messing things up. Now, I mentioned a few days ago that there are these three kind of people that come up in the Gemara. There's these Biryonim, which were punks, and then there's these Minim and Sedukim, which kind of, give the rabbis a hard time. So actually, the more we're seeing the words Minim, so check this out. So it says Minim, I have a little note over here. So if you look at Rashi, so Haminin says Akum, so idol worshippers. But I have this little note in my Gemara. Now, by the way, I use the Gemara that's called Oz V'Hadar. I love these Gemaras. I can't learn without them, specifically because of these notes that I'm about to. They're called Hagot V'Tziyunim. They're these, extremely invaluable notes that are there. So often I'll read a word and I'll be like, wait, that word doesn't sound right, or something's wrong with this flow. And then I'll see that there's a note, and it's apparently like there's a different text that changes that flow. Without Gagos V'Tziyunim, every time I see something and I have a question, I'm like second guessing myself. Like, am I reading it wrong? Is it wrong? So these notes are really helpful. Anyways, there's a note here that says Talmidei Yeshu, students of Yeshu. Yeshu, I assume being Jesus, okay? And it's really interesting because I think that these minim were like early Christians, because also if you remember back to Zion Amud Aleph, right? There was a min in the in the town of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. It says he would give him a hard time, bikra'e, with psukim, with verses. And over here, it has to do with, they added, they wanted to add Aseres Adibros into Shema, and the minim were basically giving them a hard time to say that, yeah, you see, only the Aseres Adibros were given to Moshe at Har Sinai, nothing else. And then actually, we're going to see a little bit later today on Yud Beis Amud Beis that the minim come up again, and Rashi defines them, Osam ahofchim tamei Torah lemidrash ta'os va'alil, those who flip around the reasons of the Torah to expound them in like mistaken and problematic ways. And it's very interesting that these minim, they seem to be defined as students of Yeshu, right? Because we have that same note over there as well, Talmidei Yeshu HaNotzri, and there always seem to be in the context of like verses. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, they were giving them a hard time with verses. Here also it has to do with Aseres Adibros, it has to do with other verses. I don't know much about like missionary kind of stuff, but I don't know, like whenever it would kind of come up in the past, wherever people would talk about like how to respond to missionaries or whatever it is, like it always has to do with like verses. It always be like they're going to quote you this verse, you quote them that verse. I don't remember what this verse or that verse was, whatever it is. But this is super interesting, just to try to paint a picture of who these minim are in the Gemara. It sounds like these minim are a reference to early Christians and their relationship with the Jews, which is very, very interesting. Anyways, so they wanted to include saying the 10 Commandments as part of the Kriya Shema in the morning, but they had to stop that because the Minim were giving them a hard time by saying that, you see, only the Aseres Adibros were given at Moshe Sinai. I don't know why the issue would be only specifically Aseres Adibros. Why wouldn't they say the same thing about Shema, that only Shema was given at Har Sinai? I don't know. Now, if anybody listening has some interesting insight over there to maybe early Christianity or who these Minim might be, that could be super interesting for everybody. Okay, cool. Tananam Yach, we also learn in a Bryce like this. Rabbi Nassan Omer says, Rabbi Nassan Bigvul and Bikshu L'Kroskein. They also wanted to include the Aseres Adibros outside of the Beis Hamikdash. But they had to stop for the same reason, because of these minim were giving them a hard time. Rabba Bar Chana thought, in Surah, let's do this. Let's add Aseres Adibros in Kriya Shema. Amar le Rav Chisda, and Rav Chisda said to Rabba Bar Chana, they had to stop because of Taromas Aminin, so it's not a good idea, don't do that. I think that Rav Chisda and Rabba Bar Chana were both students of Rab. A Maimar thought in Naharda that they would add the Aseres Adibros to Kriya Shema. Amar Rav Ashi, Rav Ashi said, no, a Maimar, not a good idea. They said not to do that because of Taromas Aminin. Also, I guess I'm kind of happy that we don't have to say Aseres Adibros every single day during Kriya Shema. We're going to see later on today also that they wanted to add other things into Aseres Adibros, and they didn't because of Tircha de Tzipura. It would have just been too much for us to have to say all that stuff every single day. I guess maybe even twice a day. Okay. Next, the Gemara continues, Shabbos mosifim bracha achas lemishmar yotze. That on Shabbos they would add an additional bracha for the mishmar that was leaving. We talked a little bit yesterday about what these mishmaros are. Now we're going to say, what is this bracha that they would bless? My bracha achas. What is this bracha that they would add for the mishmar hayotze? So Amar Rabbi Chalbo, mishmar hayotze omer lemishmar nichnas. The mishmar that was leaving would say to the mishmar that was entering, Mishashachan es shmo babayis hazeh. He who, or maybe sheshachen, he who dwells his name in this house, the Beis Hamikdash, hu yashkin beinechem, he shall dwell among you. Ava ve'achva v'shalom v'reus. How beautiful, right? Love and brotherhood and peace and friendliness. Anyways, very cool. I wonder why that would be the bracha that they would bless them. That you should all get along. Maybe because it was a very stressful situation over there, doing all this work every day, whatever it is. But they would bless them that they should all get along with each other. Very cool. Okay. Malcolm Shalom Laharich. Okay, here we go. So this is the part that gets a little bit challenging. So you got to just hold hot cup of shtickle. Hopefully it should only take a few minutes, but just focus. We're talking now about Frankenstein brachos. What does it mean a Frankenstein bracha? So we're going to see in a set. So without me explaining it, let's let the Gemara explain itself. So pshita eicha de kanakit kasa de chamra biyade v'kasav de shichrahu. Okay. So the Gemara says it's obvious that in a case where somebody is holding a glass of wine in his hand, but he doesn't realize that it's wine. Somebody gives him a glass, he assumes that what the person gave him is wine, but it's actually, So somebody gives him a glass. The fact is that it's wine, but he thinks that it's beer. He doesn't realize it's maybe it was a metal cup, whatever it is. For whatever the reason is, he thinks that what he's holding in his hand is beer, but it's in fact wine. Now, so he says, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam. Now, when he says those words, he assumes that he's making a shakol ne'ah b'dvaro. His kavana is to say shakol. V'siyam b'dechamra. But at the last minute, he realized, oh, wait, this isn't beer, this is wine. And then he said, okay, borei pri hagafen. So the words, all of the words that he said are correct, but the intention for the bracha was only 50% correct, right? It was 50% shakol, 50% borei pri hagafen. Yatsa. The Gemara says in that case it's no problem, it's fine. He's yotze. Why? The inami im amar shakol ne'ah b'dvaro yatsa. Because even if he would have actually just said Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shakol ne'ah b'dvaro, he would still be yotze. The Atnan, because we learn in a Mishnah on Daf Mem, al kulam im amar shakol ne'ah b'dvaro yatsa, that at the end of the day, if you say shakol ne'ah b'dvaro on anything, you are technically yotze. It's not it's certainly not ideal. You want to be making the correct bracha, But if you did make a shakol nebedvaro on anything, it works, right? Because all you're saying is that everything was created in his word, and that applies equally to everything. Okay, so in that case, it's okay, you're cool. However, here's where it gets a little more complicated. But where he's holding a glass of beer in his hand, but for whatever reason he thought that he was holding a glass of wine in his hand. So he said, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, thinking that he was going to say, Boi pri agafen, v'siyem b'deshichra mai. But then he realized, like, oh wait, this is beer, and he says, Shakol niyeh b'dvaro. What is the halacha over there? You see, because if you can't say Boi pri agafen on beer, it's just not true, right? He who creates the fruits of the grapevine isn't relevant to beer. So basically, he said, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, with an incorrect intention, and then he said Shakol niyeh b'dvaro, which is the correct one. But so 50% of the bracha had the incorrect intention, 50% of the bracha had the correct intention. So do we say basar ikar bracha azlinan? Do we say that we go based on the first part of the bracha? I don't know if to define ikar as main, which would imply that Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam is the main part, or if it means the sort of first part. Or basar chasima azlinan, or do we go based on the conclusion of the bracha, which he did correctly, said shakol niyeh b'dvaro. So Tashma, come in here. Shachar is pasach biyotze or v'siyim b'may v'ravim lo yatsa. Oh, so we say that in the morning, okay, if he started saying that first bracha of Kriyat Shema, and he said yotzer or, which is the correct bracha, right? So meaning he said Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, and his intention was that he was going to continue saying yotzer or, which is the correct bracha. However, after Melech HaOlam, for some reason he got confused, and then he started saying Asher b'dvaro ma'ariv haravim, v'siyem b'ma'ariv haravim. And he said, Baruch Ata Hashem ha'ma'ariv haravim. Lo yatsa. He's not yotze. Pasach b'ma'ariv haravim, if he said in the morning, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, thinking that he was saying ma'ariv for whatever reason, and then he realized, like, wait a second, it's the morning. V'siyem b'yotze or, and then he says yotze or, v'rechoshech, v'shalom, v'sakol, and da, Baruch Ata Hashem yotze ha'maros, right? Yatsa. He's Yotze. Okay. Arvis, now at night, Pasach b'ma'ariv haravim, he says Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, assuming that he's saying ma'ariv haravim, and then he, for whatever reason, gets confused, and he says Yotzer or v'rechoshech, and concluding finally with Yotzer ha'me'oros, v'siyem b'yotzer or, lo yatsa. He's not Yotze. Pasach b'yotzer or, v'siyem b'ma'ariv haravim, yatsa. But if he says Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam at night, assuming that he's saying Yotze or, and then realizes, wait a second, this is nighttime, then it says Asher b'dvaro ma'ariv haravim, and it says Baruch Ata Hashem ha'ma'ariv haravim, Yatsa. It's fine. Klal shel davar, the general rule is hakol holech achar achisum. Everything goes after the conclusion. So the Gemara wants to say from there, so we see that basically, as long as he said the correct bracha in the end, it works. So we should say here as well, when he's holding a glass of beer, and he says Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, assuming wine, but he says Shakol niyeh b'dvaro, it sounds like it should be fine because it goes after the conclusion. The Gemara says not so simple. Shiny Asim, it's different when it comes to the Berachos Kriyat Shema, because the Ka'ama Baruch Yotzer HaMa'oros, because this is different. Remember we mentioned in the Mishnah brachos that have a chasima and brachos that don't have a chasima. Okay, the Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Shakol niyeh b'dvaro that he's saying on the beer, it doesn't have a chasima. It's just one bracha, a one-liner, right? Whereas the Berachos Kriyat Shema, at the end, even though he starts Baruch Ata Hashem, let's just say in the morning, he starts Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, assuming that he's going to say Amar Varavim, and then he changes his mind, he says Yotzer or whatever, and then at the end he says Baruch Ata Hashem Yotzer Maros. He makes a separate bracha over there, an additional bracha at the end of that bracha, Baruch Ata Hashem Yotzer Maros, and that he's doing 100% correctly, and it all goes based on that second bracha. The first part when he says Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, in that context of Kriyat Shema, that's really irrelevant. The main part is at the end when he says Baruch Ata Hashem Yotzer Maoros, and that he did with 100% the correct kavanah. So now, Zeo. So that's the Gemara. Whereas in this case, by the beer, it's just Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Shakol niyeh b'dvaro. 50% of that bracha was incorrect intention. 50% was the correct intention. That's a different case. We can't learn from Berachos Kriyat Shema. Fine. Now the Gemara says, Hanicha l'Rav d'Amar kol bracha she'ein ba azkaras Hashem ein bracha. Shapir. Okay, this answer that we get that we just gave to say that they are different. So that works according to Rav. What does Rav say? Rav says that the most important thing in a bracha is that you have to have the name of God. So in this bracha, you're saying Baruch Atah Hashem Yotzer Ma'oros. It has the name of God. Cool. We want to say that's the most important part of the bracha. All good, fine. But Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is that the most important thing in a bracha is that it has to have Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. Now, Baruch Atah Hashem Yotzer Ma'oros doesn't have Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. Only the first part of that bracha of Kriyat Shema, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Yotzer Or V'Choshech, that has Malchus, which means that is the most important part, and that is the part which was Frankenstein, right? That is the part where he, in the morning, let's say, he thought he was saying Amar Varavim, and then only after that he realized that it was really Yotzer Or V'Choshech, and yet we're saying that it works because, the second, once he realized that it was the morning, he said Yotzer Or V'Choshech, and that works. And therefore, we should be able to say that in this case, when he says Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, with the incorrect intention, the fact of the matter is he said Shakoni Abedvaro, it should work. Just like in the morning when he say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam with the wrong intention, and we say as long as you say Yotzer Maros, that works as well. So Ella Kevin the Amar Rabba Bar Ula Kidei Laazkir Midas Yom Balayla Umidas Layla Bayom Ki Ka'amar Bracha Umalchus Meikara Atarvayu Ka'amar. So the Gemara still says, even according to Rabbi Yochanan, who says that the most important thing in the bracha is Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, still the brachos of Kriyat Shema are different than saying the Shakoni Abedvaro. That's because by Kriyat Shema, right, Rabba Bar Ula said that the main thing by Kriyat Shema is to mention the Midas Hayom Balayla, Midas Halayla Bayom, right? To mention at night mention light, and during the day we mention darkness. So even when you said Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam in the morning, thinking that you're going to say Ma'ariv Varavim, still, even in Ma'ariv Varavim, it says Gol al Or Mipnei Choshech V'Choshech Mipnei Or. So that most important part of the bracha of mentioning night during the day, that would have still been there. So even when he said Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, to some degree, he still automatically had the correct intention. Whereas when you say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, assuming Borei Pri Agafen, and then switching it in the middle to Shakoni Abedvaro, there was really no redeeming value in that first part of the bracha. Fine. Okay, so they're different. We don't know what to do. We don't have a proof for the case of this Frankenstein bracha by when you're holding beer in your hand and you have 50% Agafen, 50% Shakol intention. Fine. Tashma, come in here. Miseifa. No, but at the end of the day, what did we say at the end of that brisa of when you open, in the morning, thinking at night, and then you say Baruch Atah Hashem Yotzer Ma'oros, which is correct? What did we say at the very end? Super important line. We said Klalo Shel Davar. What's the general rule? Hakol holech achar achisum. Everything goes after the conclusion. So Klalo Shel Davar la'asuyei mai. Klalo Shel Davar means a general rule. General rules have to be including lots of other situations. What is this other situation that we're including in this general rule? Lav la'asuyei hada amron. Is it not to include our case of when you're holding beer and you do 50% wine, 50% beer? And we're saying that everything goes based on the conclusion, and as long as he said Shakoni Abedvaro in the end, it works. Lo, that's not what it's coming to include. La'asuyei nahama v'tamri. This is such a funny example, but it's coming to include bread and dates. Now, it's not talking about the before bracha, the bracha rishona on bread and dates. It's talking about the bracha acharona, right? On bread, you would of course bench, say birkat hamazon, and which is hazanet olam kulo b'tuvo. He who sustains, nourishes the world in his goodness. And then on dates, you would say the bracha me'en shalosh, right? Of ala eitz v'al pei eitz v'atunu v'sasadeh. So now, hechidami, what is this case of bread and dates? Ilem de'achal nama. If it's talking about where he in fact ate bread, v'kasavar the tamri achal, but for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, but for some reason he thought that he ate dates. Okay, ufasach adaita the tamri. But remember, the fact of the matter is he ate bread, and then he says Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, thinking that he's going to continue ala eitz v'al priya eitz v'sim b'denahama. But then somebody tells you, by the way, dude, you didn't just eat dates, you ate bread. So he says, oh, oops, and he says, Azana So'olam Kulo B'tuvo. So Hainu Ba'ayan. That is exactly our question. Let's go on for a second. Lo tzricha kagon de'achal tamre v'kasavar nahama achal. No, what this general rule is coming to include, where he ate dates, but for whatever reason he thought that he ate bread. Okay? So ufasach b'denahama. So he said, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, thinking that he's going to say, Azana So'olam Kulo B'tuvo. But then his friend reminded him that he actually ate dates, so he reminded himself that he actually ate dates, and he says, Ala eitz val pri eitz val tunuvas hasada. So yotza, in that case, he's yotze. Da'afilu siyim b'denahama nami yotza, my time the tamri nami mezan zayne. That in that case, when he ate dates, and he says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, thinking that he's going to be benching, even if he would have benched on dates, it would work because dates are also nourishing, right? What's Birkat Hamazon? Hazana tolam kulo b'tuvo b'chem chesed rachim. He who nourishes his world. So dates are nourishing. So you could theoretically say Birkat Hamazon on dates. And therefore, when he started with Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam with the intention of Hazana tolam kulo b'tuvo, that theoretically would also be all right. So when we say that the general rule, it goes after the conclusion, it's coming to include this case of when he ate dates and he thought that he ate bread. But in the case of the opposite, when he ate bread and he thought that he ate dates and said Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, thinking that he's going to say Ala eitz v'priya eitz, or our case of when he's holding beer and he thinks that it's wine and he says Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, thinking that he's going to say B'rei priya gafen, we don't have any definitive proof for which way it would go. Okay, fine. So yeah, I think we really just don't really know the answer, and I guess we'd have to assume that it wouldn't work. I guess. Very, very, very interesting. Okay. Okay, so here it says Rabba bar Chinina, but I have one of those. Not just me. It's a Gilyon, which means it's in every Gemara. There's a note that changes it to Rabba bar Chanina. So I'm going to read it as Rabba bar Chanina, and he's going to come up a ton now over for the rest of the page, really. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to read it Rabba bar Chanina. Okay. Amar Rabba bar Chanina Sava Mishmei de Rab. So Rabba bar Chanina Sava said the name of Rab. Kol shelo Amar emes v'yatzav shachris v'emes v'emuna arvas lo yatzu de chovaso. Wow. Anybody who doesn't say emes v'yatzav, which is the bracha after Shema in the morning, and Emes V'Emunah, which is the bracha after Shema in the evening, Lo Yotzei Yedei Chovaso. He's not Yotzei Kriyas Shema. Wow, which is also super interesting. Which means that I guess you have to. These brachos are Ma'akev Kriyas Shema. If you don't say the Berachos Kriyas Shema, I guess you're not Yotzei Kriyas Shema. That sounds crazy. But like, what about even the fact when like Zman Kriyas Shema is coming up? So we say Kriyas Shema quickly. We don't say the brachos of Kriyas Shema. But then again, we also said that you could say the brachos of Kriyas Shema later, and we were going to say the brachos of Kriyas Shema later. I don't know. Anyways, okay. Shneimar, the pasuk says, "La'agid b'boker chasdecha," to speak of your kindness in the morning, v'emunascha b'leilos, and the belief that we have of you at night. And as Rashi points out, that the bracha of emes v'yatzav in the morning talks about all the kindness that God did with us. He took us out of Egypt, etc. And at night, he talks about v'emunatcha b'leilot, our belief that He's going to, save us in the future. Okay. V'amar Rabba bar Chanina sav mishmei de Rab. Hamaspal, somebody who's praying, when he bends, we bow at the beginning of the first bracha and at the end of the first bracha of Shemona Esrei, and also at the beginning of the bracha of Modim and at the end of the bracha of Modim. So when a person bows, he bends his knees when he says the word Baruch, and when he says Hashem, he straightens himself out. Okay? Amar Shmuel, my timer, the Rav. So Shmuel says, how come Rav says this? Dichsiv, Hashem zokev kfufim, that Hashem straightens out those who are bent over. So when we say Hashem, you straighten out. Meisve, we have a kashim, Pnei Shmi nichasu. It says that before my name, you should be humbled, which I guess implies that when you're saying God's name, you should still be bent over. So miksiv bishmi doesn't say that during my name you should be humbled and bent over, mipnei shmi, because of my name. But I guess still when you say God's name, you're already coming up. Okay. Amar le Shmuel l'chia bar Rab. Shmuel said to Chia, the son of Rab, bar Uryan, Talmud Chacham, right, Ben Torah, come, ve'emelach milsam ayusad amar avuch. Come and let me tell you something pretty awesome that your father Rab said. Hachi amar avuch, this is what your father said. Kshu korea babar, kshu zokev Hashem. When you bow at the word Baruch, and when you straighten up when you say the word Hashem. Okay. Rav Sheshes kikara, when Rav Sheshes would bow, kara kechizra, he would bow like a staff. Imagine taking a staff and slapping it down on a table or something. Just goes straight from vertical to horizontal, just like that. There's no in between stage. But when he would straighten himself up afterwards, he would come up like a snake. Okay, he would start with his head and then straighten out the rest of his body. V'amar Rabba bar Chanina Sav Mishmei Derab Kol Hashana Kula Adam Mispal Hakel HaKadosh Melech Ohev Tzedakah Mishpat. The entire year, a person says the third bracha of Shmoneh Esrei is Hakel HaKadosh, and some bracha later, I don't know what number it is Melech Ohev Tzedakah Mishpat. Okay. Chutz me'asar Yom Shebein Rosh Hashanah v'Yom HaKippurim. The exception being the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, what we refer to as the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, right? The day one of those Aseret Yimei Tshuva beginning on the first day of Rosh Hashanah and concluding with Yom Kippur. During those 10 days, you, instead of saying Hakel HaKadosh, you say HaMelech HaKadosh, and instead of saying Melech Ohev Tzedakah Mishpat, you say HaMelech HaMishpat. Rabbi Elazar Amar, said Rabbi Elazar, Afilu Amar Hakel HaKadosh Yotza. Even during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, if you said Hakel HaKadosh, you're still Yotze. Now, we paskin that it doesn't work. If you say Hakel HaKadosh during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, we say start over from the beginning of Shmoneh Esrei. Now, I think that there's a difference between Sfardim and Ashkenazim regarding HaMelech HaMishpat. Ashkenazim, if you say Melech Ohev Tzedakah Mishpat during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, it's fine, you keep on going. I think Sfardim start over, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Channa and R. So Rabbi Elazar says that even if you say Hakel HaKadosh during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, it works. And he says, Channa and R, as the pasuk says, Vayikba Hashem tzvakot b'mishpat, that God becomes raised up in judgment, which of course is during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, which is a time of judgment. Hakel HaKadosh nikdash b'tzedakah, and the holy God becomes kadosh in tzedakah, in righteousness. Now, I don't remember if this is righteousness that people do, or I don't remember. Okay, but anyways, it's not important. But the point being, when is it that God becomes raised up in judgment? These are the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And still in that same pasuk, in that same context, it says Hakel HaKadosh. So therefore, Rabbi Elazar wants to argue that even during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, if you say Hakel HaKadosh, it's fine, it works. Fine. My Hava Allah. Whenever the Gemara says My Hava Allah, it means how do we paskin? So Amar Rav Yosef, Hakel HaKadosh, Melech Ohev Tzedakah Mishpat. Rav Yosef says, look, Lemaisa during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, you just say Hakel HaKadosh and Melech Ohev Tzedakah Mishpat, just like during the rest of the year. Rabba Amar HaMelech HaKadosh v'HaMelech Mishpat. Whereas Rabba says, no, you say during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva HaMelech HaKadosh and HaMelech HaMishpat v'Ilchos HaKarabba, and the halacha is like that. It's like Rabba, and of course that is what we do during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva. We say HaMelech HaKadosh and HaMelech HaMishpat. Okay. V'Amar Rab Chanina Sav Mishmei Derab. He says another thing. Anybody who's able to pray for his friend and he doesn't pray for his friend, he's called a sinner. Shneimar, as it says, Gam anochi chalilali mechatol Hashem mechadol lispalel ba'adchem. This is Shmuel says this after the Bnei Israel asked for a king, and this very much hurt Shmuel. He got very upset, but nonetheless he said, "Look, Gam anochi chalilali mechatol Hashem mechadol lispalel ba'adchem. God forbid that I should sin to God from refusing to pray for you." So we see that anybody could pray for his friend and refuses is called a sinner. Fine. Rabba says if the person that you're praying for is a Talmid Chacham, right, a Torah scholar, so not only do you have to pray for him, you have to make yourself sick for him. My timer, how come you have to make yourself sick for him? This is a pasuk that Shaul, when Shaul finds out that his very own son Yochanan was, I don't know what the word is, but he had a good relationship with David, and David, for some reason, Shaul was going crazy at that point and had this thing that he had to kill David. So when he found out that his own son Yochanan was friendly with David, he basically said to all of his inner circle, he says, what did he say to them? He says, Ve'ein chole mikem alai, is there nobody who was like willing to get sick for me? V'gol esozni, or let alone even just let me know that this was going on under my nose. So we see that if you're a Talmid Chacham like Shaul, so then you have to get sick on account of him. But Dilma Melech Shani, the Gemara says, yeah, but maybe it's different when you're a king, right? A king you have to get sick for, not just a Talmid Chacham. David HaMelech says about Do'ega Adomi and Achitofel, who were Talmidei Chachamim, that when they would get sick, I would put on sackcloth, I would fast. I guess the implication being that fasting and sackcloth is like getting sick, or unless he's saying that unless at least that's how the Metzudas David learns it, that that when they would get sick, we would put on sackcloth and stuff. And maybe the Gemara is learning it though, however, but like bachalosam, that maybe like when they would get sick, I would also make myself sick. But the point is that you have to identify with those people if they're Talmidei Chacham. Okay, very good. Weiter. V'amar Rabba bar Chanina sav mishmei derav kol ha'osa dvar aver misbayish bo mochen la kol avonosav. If anybody who does a sin, but he's embarrassed about the fact that he did this sin, so we forgive him for all of his sins. Wow. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, that this is a pasuk that Hashem says to. This is a pasuk that Hashem says to the Bnei Israel, and it comes up in Sefer Yechezkel. Mantiztri vavosht, right? You should basically, it's going to be that God's going to say that I kept up my part of the deal, and you didn't keep up your part of the deal, and you're going to remember that you didn't keep up your part of the deal, and you will be embarrassed. And you won't have the ability to open your mouth because you'll be so embarrassed. Right? When I when I atone, when I forgive you for all that you have done, that is the word of God, right? God is saying that when I forgive you, you will be so embarrassed that you didn't keep up your part of the deal. But the point that the Gemara is making is, or the Gemara wants to say it slightly different, which is when a person is embarrassed about not keeping up their side of the deal, nonetheless, God forgives you, as it says, b'kapri lach, as when I forgive you. Okay, fine. But Dilma Tzibur Shani, maybe that's different because that's talking about all of Bnei Israel. Maybe it's different, a community as a community versus as an individual. So Ela Mehacha, from here, this is an insane pasuk. Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul. Shmuel said to Shaul, Lamir gaz tani la'alototi. Why did you anger me to bring me up from the dead? Okay. Vayomer Shaul tsar li me'od. Shaul says, because I'm in a tight spot. Ufilagshim no, not Pilagshim. Uflishtim nechamim bi, and the Plishtim, the Philistines, are fighting against me. Vashem sar me alai, and God has left me. V'lo anani doesn't answer. V'lo anani odi doesn't answer me. Gambi ara nevim doesn't answer me. From the prophets, Gamba Chalomos, it doesn't answer me in dreams. I'm calling out to you, Lo di'eni ma'aseh, to let me know what to do. Wow, what an insane pasuk. This is when Shmuel had already died, okay? Shaul was in a rough spot. The Plishtim were fighting against him. Now, he had already killed all the Kohanim in Nov, and basically he would pray to God. God wasn't answering, not the prophets, not in dreams. And it even says before this that he tried going to asking the Urim v'Tumim, which was like the in the Choshen, in the Mishkan, like the special things in like the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol that allowed you to like get stuff from God. Anyways, what he does is, it's insane. He goes to a sorcerer, a witch, right? A Baal Ovi Yidoni, somebody who does this kind of witchcraft. Now, it also says before that he was killing all of these Baal Ovi Yidoni people, these witches. Now, even though he was killing them, he was in a bind, so he dresses up and he hides himself, and he goes to a witch, and he says, look, I need you to bring up Shmuel for me. And she says, I can't do this. You know that Shaul is killing all of the witches. If he finds out, he'll kill me. And he says, don't worry, I know that you'll be all right, because she doesn't realize that it's Shaul. And he says, don't worry, you'll be cool. And when she brings up Shmuel, he brings him up from the dead. Shmuel's like, why are you bringing me up from dead? He's all upset. Why are you doing this? He says, look, I don't know what to do. I don't know what else to do. I'm stuck. Nobody's answering. God's not answering me. The prophets aren't answering me. But conspicuously, he leaves out one fact. He did ask the Urim v'Tumim, but he didn't tell Shmuel that he asked the Urim v'Tumim because he was embarrassed to tell Shmuel that he asked the Urim v'Tumim, because after all, the Urim v'Tumim are by the Kohanim, and he killed all the Kohanim. So he was embarrassed about the fact that he killed all the Kohanim. So now, as the Gemara says, Ve'ilu Urim v'Tumim lo ka'amar mishum dekat le'lenov ir HaKohanim. He didn't mention to Shmuel that he also asked the Urim v'Tumim because he was embarrassed about the fact that he killed all the priests in Nov. And how do we know that God forgave him for killing the priests in Nov? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Umachar ata uvanecha imi. Shmuel then continues, and a few psukim later he says that, and tomorrow you and your children will be with me. So the Metzudas David learns it to say that tomorrow you and your children will be dead like me. But v'amar Rabbi Yochanan imi b'mechitzasi, with me in my sort of division, in my place where I am, i.e., you will be forgiven. V'Rabbanan amar mehacha, the Rabbanan say from here, v'okanum la'Hashem begivas Shaul bechir Hashem. What is that? Oh, another motorbike. Even in Singapore, they have loud motorbikes. Anyways, So this is also a super interesting story. David HaMelech, when part of when he was king, there was a famine for 3 years. That's a really big deal. Famine for 3 years. Anyways, he prays to God. He says, "Well, what can we do?" God says it's because Shaul killed the Givonim. When he killed the Nov Ir Kohanim, he also killed 7 Givonim. So David realizes that the only way to get rid of this famine is to go to the Givonim. Who are the Givonim? The Givonim are the people who during Yoshua. There's even a Rashi in the Torah that says that even during Moshe, but whatever. During Yoshua, there are these people who basically tricked Yoshua into saving them, and they made them into water carriers and wood choppers. And anyways, they had protection under the Jewish rule. But Shaul killed 7 of the Givonim, and because of that, there was this famine. So David goes to these Givonim and he says, "Look, we'll do anything. What can we do?" And you know what they say? They say, "An eye for an eye." They say, "We want you to kill 7 of Shaul's children and hang them up in Givat Shaul, which is the place of his kingship." And that's what it says, right? So it says, "V'okanun la'Hashem beGivat Shaul," and we want you to hang them up publicly in Givat Shaul. And then the pasuk says, "Bechir Hashem," the chosen one of God. Now, obviously, they weren't calling Shaul the chosen one of God. They were extremely upset with Shaul to such extent that they wanted David HaMelech to kill 7 of his children. So who said Bechir Hashem? Yatzasa Baskov Amar Bechir Hashem. A voice from God came out and said, "Yeah, Bechir Hashem, Shaul, the chosen one of God, i.e., he was forgiven." Amar Biabo ben Zutarti, Amar of Yehuda bar Zvida. Parshas Balak b'Kriyas Shema. They wanted to even include the whole parsha of Balak. That would be a very long Kriyas Shema. They didn't add it, however, because it would have been a tircha de tzibur. It would have been a burden on the congregation to have to say the entire part. It takes a half an hour. Imagine every time you read Kriyas Shema, in addition to everything else you're saying, you had an additional half an hour of reading Parshas Balak. My timer. How come they wanted to include Parshas Balak in Kriyas Shema? If it's because it says, as part of Balak, it says that God took them out of Egypt, right? So they want to include it as part of the whole taking out of Egypt thing. But why specifically Parshas Balak? Lema Parshas Ribis Ufarshas Mishkalos. Mention the parsha in the Torah that talks about interest, or the parsha in the Torah that talks about you have to have honest weights, right? You can't have weights that are too heavy. I believe it would be if it's too heavy, mistama. So then it would say that probably too light. If the weight is too light, so then you would have to add more and charge them more. I think that logic is correct. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. But the point is, you have to have fair weights, right? If the weight says it's a gram, so it has to be a gram. It can't be anything else. Zeo. No, maybe it's probably too heavy because you then give them less. And so if let's say the gram weight is more than a gram, so then it's heavier than a gram, so then you're going to be giving them less but charging them for more. I think that's correct. Anyways, it says in those parshos also going out of Egypt. So why specifically Balak? So Ella Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Avin mishum dechsiv ba haikrab, because it has the following pasuk: Kara shachav, right? B'shachbecha, right? Kara shachav kari, right? You crouch and lie down like a lion. Uchlavi mi yikimenu uvkumecha, right? Right, and I think a lavi is a younger lion, I think, who will pick him up. So it says in that pasuk, it's a reference to b'shach b'cha uvkumecha. So that is why they thought to include Parshas Balak. Okay, fine, very good. But they didn't because of tircha de tzibur. Fine. V'lema hai psuka v'sulo. So why don't you just say this one pasuk? Why do you have to say the whole Balak? That's a good solution. Just say this one pasuk. This is a cool thing that the Gemara answers, because Gemir kol parsha de paska Moshe Rabbeinu paskinan de lo paska Moshe Rabbeinu lo paskinan. It says, look, Moshe Rabbeinu divided up the Torah, right? If you look at a Sefer Torah, there's all sorts of breaks. There's what's called ptuchot and stumot. Ptucha is when there's a break at the end of a verse, and then there's no more content for the rest of the line. The rest of the line is just ptucha, it's patuach, it's open. And a stuma is basically when there's a little break in the middle of the line, but then the text continues on that same line. There's just a little break in the middle. That's what's called a stuma. So basically, the Moshe Rabbeinu divided up the Torah with ptuchot and stumot, right? Broke it up into sections. So whatever section however Moshe Rabbeinu divided the Torah into sections, that is how we're going to sort of extract things. We're not just going to take random psukim. If Moshe didn't divide it up that way, we're not just going to take out a random pasuk. Only by the way that Moshe divided things up, that is how we will extract things. Okay, fine. Parshas Tzitzis Mipnei Makava'ua. How come they included the parsha of Tzitzis in Kriyat Shema. Amar Yehuda bar Chaviva mipnei sheyesh ba. It says in the text over here Chamisha, but there is a Gilyon, so that should be in everyone's Gemara. Change it to Shisha, mipnei Shisha devarim, because of 6 things. Mitzvahs tzitzis, Yitzias Mitzrayim, all mitzvos. Okay, so mitzvah of tzitzis, also the fact that God took us out of Egypt. All mitzvos, the yoke of mitzvahs. Vidas minim, and the knowledge of these minim again, right? Here who are avera, thinking about avera, here avodah zarah, thinking about avodah zarah. Bishlam hanitlas mafarshan. Okay, I understand the first 3, right? Tzitzis, Yitzias Mitzrayim, and all mitzvos. So all mitzvos, tichsev, orisim osos, chartem, skol mitzvos Hashem. The yoke of mitzvahs says that you'll see the tzitzis and you'll remember all the mitzvahs of God. Tzitzis, tichsev, vasulem, tzitzis, v'gomer. Tzitzis, of course, says that they'll make tzitzis. Yitzias Mitzrayim, tichsev, asher otzesi, v'gomer, right? Asher otzesi eschem meretz mitzrayim, that took you out of Egypt. Fine, I get those. What about the other 3? Das minim, here avera, v'avodah zarah, minalan. The Tanya is we learn in the Brisa, achrei levavchem, zo minus. After your heart, that is a reference to these minim. V'chenu omer, amar naval belibo ein elukim. That Naval said in Bilibo, which is like achrei levavchem, in his heart there is no God. And Rashi says a cool thing, right? He says, v'chein hu omer amar Naval belibo ein elukim, ve'ein lecha Naval min hahofech tivei Elohim chayim. Right? There is no Naval like some nudnik, I guess. There's no, not such, like, I don't know, Naval, not such a great person, more so than somebody who's going to flip around the words of the living God, which, as we said, is a min, which again goes to their different, definitions of the psukim of the Torah. Fine. After your eyes, Zahira Avera. Let's think about Avera. Shnamar, Shimshon El Aviv. This is when Shimshon wanted to marry a Plishti woman. So he said to his father, Osa Kachli, Ki hi yashra be'enai, that she is straight in my eyes. So we see that to do Avera is connected with the eyes. Atem Zonim, Zahira Avodah Zarah, that you are Zonim after words that you desire, I guess. That's talking about Avodah Zarah v'chein omer, vayiznu achrei balim, that they were Zonah after, I guess Zonah is also a prostitute. But vayiznu, I don't know, this lashon of shar zonim and vayiznu acharei habealim, which of course Baal is one of the avodah zaras. But okay, shkoyach everybody. Hope you all enjoyed. Peace out.